We are cruising the St. Lawrence River in an area known as 1000 Islands. We are now approaching a very notable island called Hurt Island. We will be visiting this American island to tour a very famous castle called Boldt Castle. Greetings, we are Lucy and Kevin together. We are Coos Adventures. Please join us as we tour this castle in the middle of the St. Lawrence River. At the turn of the century, George C. Boldt, millionaire proprietor of the world famous Waldorf Astoria Hotel in New York City, set out to build a full size Rhineland castle in Alexandria Bay on picturesque Hart Island. The grandiose structure was to be a display of his love for his wife, Louise. Beginning in 1900, the Boldt family spent summers in the 1000 Islands at the Boldt family's Wellesley House near Mr. Boldt's Wellesley Island Farms, while 300 workers, including stonemasons, carpenters, and artists, fashioned the 6-story, 120-room castle, complete with tunnels, a powerhouse, Italian gardens, a drawbridge, a children's playhouse housed in Ulster Tower, and believe it or not, a dovecot. Not a single detail or expense was spared. In January 1904, tragedy struck. Boldt telegraphed the island and commanded the workers to immediately stop all construction. Louise had died suddenly. A broken-hearted Boldt could not imagine his dream castle without his sweetheart Louise. Boldt never returned to the island, intent on leaving the unfinished structure as a monument of his love for his deceased wife.
Why would you want a castle this big?
You want a smaller
Oh,
one?
it got lost. Why would you?
Here's the love story of George and Louise Boldt as told in the Boldt Castle website. The story of Boldt Castle and Hart Island is a tragic love story. It speaks of the remarkable love a man had for his wife and the great lengths he would go to create a monument of his love and adoration for her. George Boldt was born in Prussia in 1851 and immigrated to America when he was only 13. He started working in a hotel kitchen and quickly worked his way up in the hotel business. He met, fell in love with, and married Louise Carrer. The lovely Louise Boldt was the absolute love of her husband's life. He thought of her as a princess. They had 2 children, Charles Jr. in 1879 and Louise Clover in 1883. George Boldt went on to amass a fortune in the hotel business, owning and operating such world famous hotels as the Bellevue Hotel in Philadelphia and the Stratford Hotel, later becoming the Bellevue Stratford. In 1893, when William Waldorf Astor built his Waldorf Hotel in New York City, George Boldt managed it. Louise Boldt was a constant companion to her husband and helped out with hotels whenever she could. She made sure that all of the bedrooms were decorated with such luxuries as pincushions, and she had fresh flowers placed in every room, as well as a candle, which she wanted placed in the rooms in case the electric lights failed. Louise and George seemed like a perfect match, with his hotel interests and Louise's background being hostess of her father's famous Philadelphia club. They both played an instrumental role in making the Waldorf Hotel the breathless wonder it was in the 1890s. In 1893, the Boldt family vacationed in Alexandria Bay and immediately fell in love with the area, and returned again the following year. In 1895, George Boldt obtained Hart Island, then spelled Hart. The family spent several summers there, improving the grounds and all the time growing more and more in love. George Boldt imagined his wife a beautiful princess in a castle. He imagined her walking down a grand staircase in grand style, and wanted to build that for her and present it to her on Valentine's Day as a tribute to his love for her. he was going to make that dream a reality. In 1900, construction began on Boldt Castle. Over 300 of the finest stonemasons and craftsmen were hired and worked on the castle 10 hours each day for only $1.50 per hour. The army of workmen didn't overlook a single detail called for in this monumental work of architecture that was to be George Boldt's gift to Louise. 4 years had passed since work on this new summer home had begun. It was nearing completion in January of 1904 when tragedy struck. Louise Boldt was dead. A heartbroken George couldn't bear to think of the castle without her. He immediately telegraphed the construction foreman on the island and ordered that construction on the island stop. The island fell into an eerie silence as 300 workers put down their hammers and went home. The work was never finished. As long as he lived, George Boldt never again stepped foot on Hart Island. He died alone in 1916 in his room at the Waldorf Astoria in New York City. Here is a more complete history of the island, including the days preceding George and Louise Boldt. The 5-acre island in the St. Lawrence River, now known as Hart Island, on which Boldt Castle stands, was once called Hemlock Island and was then owned by brothers Charles and John Walton of Alexandria Bay. The Waltons sold Hemlock Island to Eleazer Kirk Hart for $100 on July 31st, 1871. He then renamed the island Hart Island after his family name, spelled Hart. In 1872, Eleazer Hart spent a considerable amount of time and money beautifying the grounds and invested $10,000 to have a summer cottage built on the island. It was referred to as a summer cottage, but Mr. Hart's summer cottage was 84 feet long and 76 feet wide, containing 80 rooms, and had a tower and a high sleeping porch attached for spectacular viewing of the St. Lawrence River. I guess this is what you would get for $10,000 in 1900. In 1893, Mr. Eleazer Kurt Hart died. His widow, Louise S. Hart, had absolutely no intentions of selling the property at any price, as it was one of the most desirable locations in the area for a summer home. The summer home on Hart Island went unoccupied for some time until Mr. Edward Wallace Dewey purchased the property for $10,000 from Mr. Hart's widow, Louise, on June 21st, 1895. Notice that Mr. Dewey paid the same amount of money for the property that Mr. Hart spent to build it. Quite the bargain. 11 days later, he transferred ownership of Hart Island and the summer cottage to Louise Boldt, Mr. George Boldt's wife, for only $1. I know there's got to be a juicy story there, so have at it. Let your imagination go wild. Yours is as good as mine. George Boldt immediately went to work beautifying the island. He reshaped the island into a heart and renamed it from Hart Island, spelled H-A-R-T, to Hart Island, spelled H-E-A-R-T. I guess he was working on his secret plan to make the island the ultimate Valentine's Day gift for his beloved princess. The family spent several summers on Hart Island in the old summer cottage while they made improvements. During this initial period, the powerhouse was built to provide electricity to the island buildings. In 1899, Elster Tower was completed. This was the tower first conceived by Mr. Boldt while on a tour up the Rhine River in Germany. Its primary function was for recreational facilities for the family. The playhouse, as it has been called, contains a billiard room, library, kitchen, ballroom, and several apartments. In the basement was a 2-lane bowling alley. In 1900, work began on Boldt Castle. The first thing that needed to be done was to remove the old summer cottage. The building was slid in sections across the frozen St. Lawrence River to become the Wellesley House and part of the Thousand Islands Country Club. Louise Boldt died in 1904 and construction on the castle stopped completely. The building was left standing unfinished as a monument to love. Subsequent to the death of George Boldt, The castle was purchased in the 1920s by Edward J. Noble. Edward J. Noble was owner of the Beechnut Fruit Company and inventor of the Lifesaver candy. The E.J. Noble Foundation ran it as an unimproved tourist attraction for more than 50 years, allowing visitors to run free on the island. Vandalism and graffiti abounded as the island fell into a further state of disrepair. Left to the mercy of the wind, rain, ice, snow, and vandals, the castle languished until 1977, when it was taken over by the Thousand Islands Bridge Authority, who pledged to restore and maintain the property as a treasured tourist attraction. In the past 30 years, over $14 million have been spent on the ongoing restoration and restabilization projects at Hart Island. I would like to share with you a story of George Boldt that is told on the Boldt Castle website. The story is called George Boldt's Good Deed. One stormy night many years ago, an elderly man and his wife entered the lobby of a small hotel in Philadelphia. Trying to get out of the rain, the couple approached the front desk, hoping to get some shelter for the night. "Could you possibly give us a room here?" the husband asked. The clerk, a friendly man with a winning smile, looked at the couple and explained to them that there were 3 conventions in town, and this would be almost impossible. "All of our rooms are taken," the clerk told them, "but I can't send a nice couple like you out into the rain at 1 o'clock in the morning. How would you feel about sleeping in my room? It's not exactly a suite, but it will be good enough to make you folks comfortable for the night." When the couple declined, the young man pressed on. "Don't worry about me," he said. "I'll make out just fine." So the couple agreed. As he paid his bill the next morning, the elderly man said to the clerk, "You are just the kind of manager who should be the boss of the best hotel in the United States. Maybe someday I'll build one for you." The young clerk looked at the couple and smiled. The 3 of them talked a bit more, then parted ways. As they drove away, the couple agreed that the helpful clerk was indeed exceptional, that finding people who are both this friendly and helpful wasn't easy. 2 years passed. The clerk had almost forgotten about the incident when he received a letter from the old man. He recalled that stormy night and enclosed a round trip ticket to New York, asking the young man to pay them a visit. The old man met him in New York and led him to the corner of Fifth Avenue and 34th Street. He then pointed to a great new building, a palace of reddish stone with turrets and watchtowers thrusting up to the sky. "That," said the older man, "is the hotel I just built for you to manage." "You must be joking," the young man said. "I can assure you I'm not," said the old man, a sly smile on his mouth. The old man was William Waldorf Astor, and the magnificent structure was the original Waldorf Astor Hotel. The young clerk who became its first manager was George C. Boldt. Here's an interesting piece of trivia regarding the construction of Boldt Castle. George Boldt owned the stone quarries that supplied the stone used in building the castle, and he owned the sand pits that supplied sand which was mixed into the mortar mixture holding the stones together. The massive granite blocks were cut so accurately and with such precision that when they arrived at their final resting spots from their location on Oak Island, 10 miles downstream, not a single stone needed alterations. The dome measures 24 feet long and 18 feet wide and is over 7 feet high. It is suspended over 80 feet above the castle's main hall, showering the grand staircase in brilliant hues of color. The dome consists of well over 6,000 pieces of hand-cut art glass leaded into 48 individual sections, using over a mile of lead cane. From planning to installation, it took nearly a year to complete. Installation took little more than 2 weeks. The dome cost $214,000 and was completed in June of 2001. Infinity. Hearts, heart, heart. Infinity means ever infinite love. Here's some trivia. The origin of Thousand Island dressing is related to George Boldt. There was a man by the name of Oscar Chersky who became a trusted associate of George Boldt during Boldt's duties at the Waldorf Astoria Hotel in New York City. Oscar became George's confidant and close friend, and during many occasions joined George on some of his many summer trips to Thousand Islands. As a head chef at the hotel in New York City, Oscar was very skillful in making very tasteful dishes. Legend has it that while on one such vacation in the 1000 Islands aboard his yacht Louise, named after Mrs. Boldt, George's friend Oscar discovered that the noon meal's salad fixings had been left sitting on the dock. Improvising with the ingredients he had on board the yacht, Oscar quickly concocted the tasty dressing for which the region is now very well known around the nation and the world. Stay around to the end and I will give you the recipe for making your own Thousand Island dressing. I am now reading from the informational stone display in front of the powerhouse. Beauty and style, a Boldt trademark, were not lost on even the most utilitarian structure on Hart Island as demonstrated by the design of the powerhouse. This structure, located at the foot of the island, was built at a cost of $40,000, was to house the electrical generating plant and domestic water pumps for the island. The most notable feature of the structure is the Corellan clock structure soaring 90 feet above the waterline. The tower was planned when Mr. Boldt learned that Wanamaker's store in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, were disposing of their noted set of chimes as they were too loud for the city streets. 15 silver bells ranging in size from 12 to 14 feet formed a representation of the Westminster chimes, which could be heard for miles up and down the river. The tower also housed an immense three-faced clock, which was electrically lit at night and could be seen from great distances. The powerhouse is actually located on a small isle and was entered by crossing a graceful flying stone bridge. The upper floors were apartments intended for use by the engineers, machinists, and experts employed in connection with the powerhouse. These lodgings were appointed in a manner that would satisfy the master of most estates. The lower level housed three dynamos, each having 30 horsepower, which was used to provide power to over 500 lights on the island. Also located here were three auto engines which ran a Gould pump for pumping domestic water. A storage battery was also installed in the dynamo room. Mr. Boldt employed the chief electrician of the Waldorf Astoria Hotel in New York City to oversee the construction of the powerhouse, which took 3 months and was completed in the fall of 1899, before construction of the castle was even conceived.
Come back, come back.
Oh, yeah. And getting a better,
Right?
What? Come back?
In Ponte Delgado on that sightseeing boat up in the morning.
Oh, yeah,
Come
yeah,
back, come back.
yeah. Yeah.